Don't look it in the eyes. I can see your soul can take it.
All right. Well, I am Grant from Screen Rant. How you doing today, guys?
Good.
What's up? How are
How
you?
are you?
I'm great. Thank you. I'm really excited to chat about Consumed. I watched it earlier today, and it is such a fun and little intricate creature feature at the same time. So kudos to you both on that. So, Mitchell, I'll start with you, and then Phil, what was it about this script that really spoke to both of you to want to help bring it to life?
I think you kind of, said it's intricate. When I read it, written by great screenwriter David Calvert. Just the opportunity, to have these different layers where, just as you said, oh, great, look, this is a fun, exciting, thrilling creature feature, but oh, it's so much deeper. And, when you really peel back the layers, it's really about this woman who's dealing with cancer, and it's really her fight with cancer, which makes it so, I felt made the story so much more than, look, we've done it where sometimes you just do a horror movie and you're like, we just want to have a good time with it. But there was so much depth to it. And David wrote it from dealing with, a very close family member with cancer. We've all dealt with cancer, in our families, immediate families. And so it just became this personal thing. And I think once Devon and Courtney and Mark and the actors got involved and everything, it just became this thing that was, at the end of the day, we're like, is it even a real, is it real that this creature is, hunting them, or is it just in her mind? Is it in Devon's character's mind? And maybe it's two different things. Like, are they hunting two different creatures? And it just became this really cool idea that also was explored even further in the editing room.
Interesting. And Phil, did you have anything you wanted to add to that?
Not really. I think it's pretty good. Simply put, I think the simplicity of the idea, coming from the producing side, was like, hey, this is going to be a very simple shoot. 3 people in the woods. What could possibly go wrong? And of course, you have to deal with everything along the way that comes at you. But we had such a professional cast and crew, and just the opportunity again to shoot a film, and David's wonderful script. Mitch pretty much said it all.
So you both talk about and highlight the fact that this is very much a character-driven creature feature about this woman who is dealing with cancer. And so I'd love to hear, what it was like finding the perfect person, eventually landing on Courtney to really bring Beth to life and capture all of those layers of grief and pain that she's dealing with along this journey.
And, that's exactly right, in the sense that somebody had to play this with an extreme vulnerability, and we've been fans of Courtney's for a long time. We've known her for a handful of years, that she's worked on, projects with friends or colleagues. And, when it came time to cast Beth, she was just perfect. She brought this, in her, obviously an extremely talented person, but just this vulnerability that she was able to bring to this character, but yet not, it's one thing to just be vulnerable. And, as we all know, in a horror movie, a lot of characters can just end up being reactionary to the horror that's happening. Vulnerable, yet that can stand up kind of as much as she can stand up on her own 2 feet and try to fight back, specifically with this intensity that Devon brings with his character as a person, and coupling those two together, and with Mark, who plays her husband, it just became this nice little triangle that we just felt was just great. It just worked out.
Now, I got to ask about Devon. I mean, I'm a huge Devon Sawa fan. He's obviously a horror genre staple. And like you say, he brings such a great intensity to this role. And so I'd love to hear, was he the first person you approached for this? Was he the first person you had in mind for this role when you saw the script and saw the character?
Yeah, Devon, we've been fans of his as well, not only through the genre, but films like SLC Punk and Idle Hands and things like that. And once you kind of really start seeing that character and you see him and you're like, okay, he really is this character, and thankfully Phil and I and Devon, we're all represented by the same agency, so it became this really kind of easy pathway to us talking and meeting, and and then it just kind of became consumed.
Yeah, and he's simply wonderful to work with. He's, as if you've ever watched the interview, that's how he is. He's very candid, very straightforward. He's personable, and he brought a lot to the set. And the first day on the shoot, you can tell there's a different presence. It was a little more quiet, a little more subdued, a little more stoic, and that's for the character as well. So having Devon on set in the room really helped us get through the production easier.
I love hearing that, and I love hearing you mention SLC Punk. I have a rare DVD of it on one of these shelves because that's just such a great movie, and I've spoken with him before for Hunter x Hunter, and he is very much personable at the same time candid, and I love that about him. So talk to me about shooting in this forest setting. I mean, it sounds easy in theory, but there obviously comes with so many hurdles when it comes to lugging the equipment out there, and especially with dealing with a creature feature. So I'd love to hear from you both sort of your experience with shooting on location for this film.
I mean, yes, you're exactly right. All the things, every film is a challenge, right? Every film you have to like put out fires. Specifically, we said, this will be a very simple thing. We'll shoot in the forest, in the woods. It'll be really easy. What can possibly go wrong? There's no people trying to mow their lawns, to try to interrupt the set. There's no airplanes that are going overhead. You forget about the waves and mosquitoes, the brown bears, the isolation, the cell phone service. It was literally a horror film within itself. In some ways, we're living this meta experience of people being lost in the wilderness, and we're kind of lost in the wilderness. But we had, fortunately, Jeff Allard, Joel Pincozzi, the other two producers on the project. We all came together, Mitch included, and we're able to, we've worked with each other for so long that we were able to create a really nice shorthand and get through most of these obstacles. And again, we lean on the actors because they did a lot of the heavy lifting, and they were so professional and easy. And it's really three of them, so it's not that hard,
Not too many to have to juggle at that point. And Mitchell, did you have anything you wanted to add to that?
No, just Phil really covered it. It's us, the Butcher Brothers, really getting our careers going with independent films and independent horror. There's this there's this kind of like idea that like when you start with independent horror with these small movies, go out to the woods, shoot out in the woods, and we never really did. But you kind of think, in the back of your mind, you're thinking, shooting in the woods, it's, shouldn't be that hard. Oof. The one thing that, to add to what Phil was saying, as soon as the sun goes down too, it's not just there's no light. I mean, it's pitch black. You're like, oh, wait, wait a second. We have to light this entire area. We're like, wait, who talked about shooting in the woods being easy?
Sounds like a whole other experience in and of itself, in comparison to just camping out in the woods and running into the Wendigo, which I do want to talk about. You mentioned the fact that this is an independent horror film, and I think the effects, both practical and visual, used to create the Wendigo are just stunning. So I'd love to hear about how you went about finding the design for the creature in this film, as we see it throughout its different forms.
Going back to kind of what we were talking about earlier, where with the script, we really want to kind of unravel and slowly take you through this creature, kind of always just on the sides, or you only get little pieces of it, but in relation to it really being about Beth and her dealing with her cancer. And at the end of the day, it's like what's real, what isn't, and it's really the Wendigo and the folklore really is just a metaphor for her disease. So to create that, we really wanted to, use it to inspire from not just, what you see because, the Wendigo is a very complex creature. And, not a lot of films have tackled it, but, it's a spirit it's a bad spirit that possesses you, but it's also a creature that can eat you and it can take over you and you can morph into it. So there's a lot to it. So we just kind of utilize that into as much as we could into her, what we would feel like it, we've all, specifically with David, the writer, and ourselves, we've all dealt with very close family members who have, had cancer. And so I think that's really what it was. It was just kind of blending the Wendigo myth with, just the pain and suffering that comes with cancer. So yeah, that's how we kind of came upon this idea, our creature and our representation of the Wendigo.
I like that you really took all of those layers into thought and into account when putting that together, because that really does, now that I look back on it, does reflect in the both designs that we see. And so you mentioned the editing room earlier, and I would love to ask, how much changed from the original script and from what you shot to what is now what we see in the film?
Quite a bit. Quite a bit. I will say, at least for me, it's when you're doing an indie film, editing is such a big part of it. You discover so much in the editing room. Look, I'm sure also in, all sorts of, different sizes of feature films. But for us, not only, you have the script, and then director comes on, producers come on, actors come on, and it becomes its own life. And then you shoot it, and then that becomes its own life, right? And the film will tell you, like, this is what I want to be. And the DP, which we had a wonderful DP, Miguel, who, his style is very unique. He shot The Vast of Night. He's done all these amazing, this was his first American horror movie. He's this, a DP from Chile that has done these amazing award-winning projects that you would go, oh, now he's doing a horror. So he brought this very unique vision to the photography. But then, you do end up with that whole, all these different ideas and takes in the editing room. And it, our editor, Brett Solom, we're like, here you go, make something of this.
And just to probably on top of that too, I think what I noticed, because I was able to see it from an outside perspective, that this fantastic script that David wrote, that was a personal story for him, had all the working pieces, and that was a draw first. It was like, this is a very simple, straightforward story about two people going to the woods getting chased down by a beast. But as you said, there's so many layers that's going on there, for her cancer metaphor. But I think what came out through the editing process, I noticed too, was that the connectivity with her to the creature, to the Wendigo, and how there's a bond between them, and it's her bond to her disease as well as a bond to the creature. And even Devon's character is bonded to this creature, and out of that, in the editing process, arose this kind of cosmic horror, thread line that came through the story that even informed the origin of the story itself slightly. That in the editing room, and that was fun to discover.
I love that you find that and that you make note of that, because now I want to go back and sort of pick up on that extra layer, because I love me some good cosmic horror. So that's a good note for me to keep in mind. And so, Phil, I'd actually like to turn to you next. We've talked a lot about how this is very much a two-hander story between the cancer drama and the horror. And so from a producer standpoint, what is it like, finding the right people to not only sell this to, but also to really, get passionate about joining and helping Mitchell and Courtney and everybody else, move forward with this and bring this to audiences?
Yeah. Jeff Allard, the main producer on the film, I came on as a butcher brother, so I came on almost as a creative producer. Not that I don't have the chops too, but the whole team, like, so Joel Pincosi is another producer that came on. He worked on us on The Violent Kind, a couple other films, I believe, too. Okay, I'm sorry.
Worked on The Night Watchman.
Night Watchman, thank you.
Holy Ghost People.
Holy Ghost People. There you go. So, he's on the roster. It's all one big, jamboree in my head. It's always about team building. It's like you have to work with people you trust consistently. And you don't always know when you come onto set who's going to, who the problem child is going to be, because there's always a problem child. It could be me. But we've been very fortunate to make enough films with enough people that we've been able to garner trust and gain a nice momentum with. And specifically, I'd say this film, the casting had so much to do with it. From Mark to Courtney to Devon, all coming from different places, and really showing up, being in the woods, getting down and dirty for weeks on end, and being professional the entirety. We were truly living in the woods. That's how it was. It was it wasn't always fun. People got hurt. You trip over a rock, and that was that. Like Mitch saying, it's pitch black out. So you have to really like take everything into consideration. And hopefully come out with something wonderful, which I think, we did a pretty good job.
And just to add to that real quick, XYZ was a big proponent of this movie from the scripting phase all the way through, right now. They were, big involved, from casting to production notes and everything. So they really helped out quite a bit. And, obviously XYZ is, they do, everything from Mandy to, all these, amazing kind of very unique horror movies that, we're all fans of course, but yeah, they were very, very instrumental in helping us get this movie off the ground.
Well, I'm really glad that they came on board, and as everybody else did, because like I said, I love this movie, and I think it's really something that a lot of people, horror genre fans or not, are going to enjoy. So that is all the questions I really had. So thank you guys both so much for taking the time to chat. I really do appreciate it.
Thank you.
Quit your hollering. You'll bring the beast down on us.